I'll be honest, I do feel a little guilty, because my very first full-length video on a Ducati model is about a flagship that almost everybody hated. Hated so much, in fact, that Ducati wasted no time making a U-turn, going right back to the design style that came before. Here's the interesting part. My main source for this video is a wonderful book by Alan Cathcart and Mark Cook, written in the hopeful buzz surrounding the 999's debut in 2003. More than 200 pages, packed with a meticulous breakdown of what became one of the most controversial motorcycles in Ducati's history. And maybe that's exactly why we now get the chance to look back at the 999, not just through the lens of criticism, but through what it truly brought to the table. By the late 90s, Ducati wasn't just another motorcycle brand. It was the symbol of Italian speed and style. The path to that status had been paved by the 851, sharpened by the 888, and then perfected by the 916. Massimo Tamburini's 916 didn't just win races, it owned the World Superbike Championship. It was praised as one of the most beautiful sport bikes ever built, two wheels that could make your heart race just sitting still. Its lines, its stance, that single-sided swing arm, this was rolling sculpture with a 150-mile-per-hour heartbeat. But behind the glamour and the trophies, the picture wasn't all champagne and checkered flags. Ducati's parent company was in trouble. Production numbers were falling, nearly cut in half, and financial pressures were mounting. On the outside, the brand was at its peak. On the inside, they were searching for a way forward, and that's when the leadership made a bold choice. Instead of clinging to Tamburini's formula, they handed the pen to Pierre Terblanche, a designer known for being practical, unafraid of breaking tradition, and maybe a little too far ahead of his time. It was a gamble. Give the reins to someone who didn't just want to continue the story of the 916, but to write an entirely new chapter. A chapter that, as it turned out, would challenge everything Ducati fans thought they knew about the brand, and divide the community like never before. When Pierre Terblanche took the job, Ducati kept the brief simple, almost too simple. Fast, sexy, red. Three words that summed up the brand's very identity. For most designers, that might have meant drawing up something dripping with drama and flair. A motorcycle meant to turn heads before it even turned a wheel. But that wasn't Terblanche's way. He wasn't chasing beauty for beauty's sake. Instead, he worked by an old, almost stubborn rule. Form follows function. Every curve, every bolt, every angle had to serve a purpose. If it didn't make the bike faster, easier to ride, or more comfortable, it didn't belong. His goal wasn't just to create another race winner. Ducati already had those. He wanted to build a superbike that anyone could ride long distances without feeling beaten up. A machine that could carve through a racetrack on Sunday and take you across 3 states on Monday. Comfort, stability, and real-world usability would stand alongside raw performance, not take a back seat to it. This was a radical shift for a company whose recent legacy had been shaped by Tamburini's stunning but punishing 916. And in Terblanche's mind, if Ducati was going to survive into the next decade, it couldn't just keep selling beauty. It had to sell ability. The 999 would be that gamble in steel and aluminum, a motorcycle designed to ride better than it looked. And that last part would turn out to be both its greatest strength and its most dangerous flaw. To bring Terblanche's vision to life, Ducati had to rethink how they built motorcycles. For the first time, they embraced computer technology in a big way. Extensive modeling, digital mock-ups, and virtual stress tests that allowed every component to be refined before a single piece of metal was cut. It meant faster development, yes, but more importantly, it meant precision. Everything could be dialed in to fit perfectly, right down to the smallest bolt. Still, Terblanche didn't abandon the romance of Italian craftsmanship. The process still began with hand-drawn sketches, pencil lines that hinted at what was to come. The bodywork was still shaped in clay, sculpted and resculpted, until it carried that intangible soul you simply can't capture on a computer screen. It was old-world artistry meeting new-age engineering. The changes went beyond looks. The new design used 23% fewer parts than the 916. That made it lighter, less prone to the little failures that could spoil a weekend ride, and easier for mechanics to work on. Then came the ergonomics. The seat was lower. The rider no longer perched on the bike. They sat in it. That small shift transformed comfort, taking pressure off the wrists and easing strain on the back and neck. Adjustable foot pegs and a customizable seat tank arrangement meant riders could tailor the fit for their size, style, and purpose, whether chasing lap times or chasing the horizon. This wasn't just a superbike built to win races. It was a Ducati designed to make you want to keep riding, long after the checkered flag dropped. At the heart of the 999 was Ducati's short-stroke Testa Stretta engine, a power plant born on the racetrack. This wasn't just inspired by racing, it was a racing engine, the very architecture that carried Troy Bayliss to the World Superbike Championship in 2001. In street trim, it produced 140 horsepower, slightly less than Honda's Fireblade of the same era. But numbers alone never told the whole story. Where the Fireblade chased high-rev screamers, the 999 delivered its punch lower in the rev range with a surge of torque that you could feel deep in your chest. That meant real-world speed, the kind that gets you from corner to corner faster, with less drama and fewer gear changes. It kept the signature 90-degree L-twin layout that defined Ducati, but with key refinements. Larger valves for better breathing, revised pistons, and a higher compression ratio. The result was an engine that pulled harder, spun freer, and stayed reliable, mile after hard-charging mile. And perhaps most impressively, it managed to blend pure race-bred performance with genuine long-distance capability. In the early 2000s, superbikes weren't known for comfort. They were track day torture devices. But the 999 proved that you could have both. A machine that could dominate a Sunday at the circuit and still carry you across state lines without leaving you broken. It was a rare balance, one that, in hindsight, may have been too far ahead of its time for most riders to appreciate. On the track, the 999 wasted no time proving itself. In its short life, it captured 3 World Superbike Championships, an achievement most models could only dream of. It didn't just win titles, it racked up more individual race victories than any Ducati that had come before it. For a bike that so many dismissed on looks alone, it had an uncanny ability to silence critics with a checkered flag. And it wasn't just winning over race fans. In showrooms, the 999 quietly became a sales success. Its very first year on the market, it outsold the legendary 916, a feat that would have been unthinkable to Ducati purists at the time. Over its entire production run, total numbers eclipsed the 916s as well, despite the steady chorus of complaints about its styling. That's the contradiction at the heart of the 999 story. On paper and on asphalt, it was one of Ducati's most accomplished machines. It won, it sold. It delivered exactly what a flagship superbike was supposed to deliver. Yet for all its success, a large part of the Ducati faithful still couldn't get past the way it looked. It was a rare case where performance and popularity didn't walk hand in hand, and that disconnect would soon steer Ducati toward a very different decision. For all its success on paper, the 999's looks were another story entirely. Gone was the flowing sensuality of the 916 and 998. In its place, stacked headlights, a conventional double-sided swing arm, and sharp angular bodywork shaped more by wind tunnel efficiency than by the sexy lines Ducati fans had come to expect. It was a bold departure, but timing wasn't on Ducati's side. In the early 2000s, motorcycling culture was pulling in 2 very different directions, retro and cafe racer styling were enjoying a resurgence, fueled by nostalgia. Meanwhile, the Japanese sport bike giants were sticking to familiar incremental changes in design, evolving their looks slowly so as not to alienate their base. Against that backdrop, the 999 looked foreign. Not Japanese, not retro, and certainly not like the iconic Ducati silhouette enthusiasts had burned into their minds. The reaction was swift and polarizing. Some riders appreciated the departure, praising its functionality and comfort. Others despised it outright, seeing it as an unforgivable betrayal of Ducati's design heritage. And it wasn't mild dislike. The 999 became one of those rare machines that split opinion clean down the middle. You either respected its practicality and performance, or you couldn't stand the sight of it. There was no middle ground. That divide would ultimately force Ducati's hand and set the stage for a dramatic pivot in their design direction. In the end, the uproar proved too loud to ignore. After just 3 years in production, Ducati pulled the plug on the 999. Its replacement, the 1098, was an intentional about-face, a return to the beloved design language of the 916th. The single-sided swing arm came back. The signature twin headlights returned. The 999's angular utilitarian silhouette was quietly pushed out of the spotlight, almost erased from Ducati's official lineage. But time has a way of changing the conversation. 2 decades on, the 999 is no longer just the ugly Ducati. It's recognized by many as a machine that was simply ahead of its time. Its long, low stance, its asymmetrical details, its aerodynamics-first bodywork, these elements have since become staples in the look and function of modern superbikes. In many ways, what Terblanche was criticized for in 2003 is now standard practice. That's the paradox of the 999's story. In motorcycling, a bike isn't always hated because it's bad. Sometimes it's hated because it disrupts expectations, because it forces riders to see their passion from a new angle. The 999 did exactly that. It asked Ducati loyalists to trade a little beauty for a lot of usability, to think about speed not just in terms of lap times, but in terms of living with the machine day after day. And while the market wasn't ready for it then, history suggests it might just have been one of Ducati's most forward-thinking creations. Back then, the Ducati 999 was seen as the outcast, so different that many turned their backs on it. But today, looking back, we see a machine that dared to step out from the shadow of the 916, carrying a forward-thinking design philosophy and an uncannily accurate vision of the sport bike's future. It wasn't perfect, it didn't please everyone, but maybe that's exactly why it's worth talking about and debating. What about you? Have you ever seen, ridden, or even owned a 999? Do you think it's a misunderstood masterpiece or truly a misstep for Ducati? Share your story and your perspective in the comments below, because it's your stories that keep machines like this alive. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and make sure to subscribe so you won't miss the next journey, where we continue exploring the legends that have been both loved and hated in equal measure throughout motorcycle history.